What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Friday, August 27th edition of our MLB DFS DraftKings Picks video. I am your host, Justin Bales, usually joined by Ben Hostler, but his 9 to 5 has gotten pretty crazy with some of the hours that he's posting, so I wanted to give him the day off. I hope he enjoys his time at a much worse job than what I am doing right here. But for this Friday slate, we have a large 15-game slate. There is a lot to go over. We will get into that in a second. Beforehand, I do want to get what you guys are waiting for. Last Friday, I told you that if you guys started with the engagement, giving the thumbs up, subscribing, commenting, I will vouch to give away some free stuff on these videos. You guys have excelled at your role. Absolutely love and appreciate what you have been doing. So I have talked to the higher ups, and in this video, we will be giving away a free month of our MLB DFS Course Play package, which is basically you get all things MLB for us. So there's a few things that you need to do to be entered into the contest, which then we will select one random person to win. Number 1, like this video, super easy. Number 2, subscribe to the channel, also easy. Number 3, join our Discord. You can do that by going to the website and finding the chat room button. You can go to chatdfs.com, or if you just look down in the description below, you will find the link to it. Join our Discord, and then comment your Discord name below, and that is how we will find you to give you your free month if you win it. Once again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, join Discord, and then comment your Discord name on this video, and you will be entered to win a free month of our MLB Core Plays package. As for all of our free stuff, we have articles and everything. That's dfskarma.com. You can also find all kinds of tools that you can use for sports betting at betkarma.com. I would highly recommend checking both of them out. Both very useful. Just a part of the daily process that we do. Shout out to Sam, who does our projections portals. That gives us all of the good stats that we use and everything. It's really great and incredible what he's been doing, and it's only really going to get better for NFL. I already know what is coming out for that. It's going to be absolutely amazing, but did want to quick shout him out on this. The last thing that I'll say before we get down into the slate is download the Jock Market app. JOCKMKT, I believe, is how you can find it in the App Store. Join the Discord where we give out free advice for it, and you can use the promo code KARMA to get up to $50, or you can get 100% deposit bonus up to $50 on your first deposit when you use the code KARMA. I would highly recommend doing that. We just had a massive night on Jock Market last night. I give out kind of a player pool, and we can talk more strategy in Discord if you want to know how exactly I'm playing everything. But gave out a player pool, and I had, I believe, 5 of the top 6 scorers on the slate last night. So really good night there, and it's more of a free way to win money with us, and it's kind of a cool take on mixing the stock market with DFS, and it's only going to get better, honestly, for football. I believe that should be really, really fun, more or less on a weekly basis, because we're going to be giving out free advice for that as well. So go ahead and download that. But getting into the slate tonight, we have 15 games. There's a ton of pitchers, but there's also a ton of pitchers that have virtually no innings on the season. So we're kind of put in a weird spot where we're probably going to more or less be attacking them. There's a few arms as well that, are more or less dominant, but not in the best of matchups. So we can start up top. My favorite arm at the very top is going to be Garrett Cole. He's just throwing better than everyone else in the slate. He gets a solid matchup against the Oakland A's, who they haven't been performing overly well in recent days, but the problem is they also aren't striking out at that high of a rate. So it kind of puts you in a little bit of a weird situation where do you trust Cole's strikeout ability versus a team that's really not striking out at that high of a rate in recent games? Although, they're not striking out at the lowest on the slate. It's like right around 22%. Over the last 14 days. But I trust Cole's ability to to create his own strikeouts, and that's why he's my number one. The other guys up top, like Aaron Nola or Shane McClanahan, I think are completely viable for tournaments, but I think that it's pretty clear if you're going above 10,000, it's Garrett Cole. And then the second top option when we talk about how we would like to spend up on two pitchers is going to be Joe Musgrove. He's at 9,600. He's been throwing extremely well in the season. He's been a little inconsistent, but all of his metrics look completely fine. His advanced metrics are good. He can get strikeouts. And the biggest thing is that he gets a matchup against the Los Angeles Angels, who over the last 14 days, their team WOBA sits at only 2.89, strikeout rate at 26.2%. That's one of the lowest WOBAs and highest strikeout rates on the entire slate. So it's just more or less a great matchup for Joe Musgrove. So I think pairing Cole and Musgrove together will probably be the optimal pairing that I would want to go in cash. But I do think that there's other viable options. If you want to drop down and get cheaper, Logan Gilbert is due for quite a bit of positive regression. His ERA sits at 5.16, but his xFIP's under 4. He does have a strikeout rate above 25% on the season, and he gets a solid matchup against the Kansas City Royals. The big issue, once again, in this situation is that they just aren't striking out a lot. So I do like Logan Gilbert. I think he's going to be very good. I do think he's actually pretty good right now at the moment. So he's probably my favorite spend down. And then, just discussing some other pitchers, you have Wade Miley at 9,200. I hate paying that for Miley, but the matchup against Miami is really good. I think that he's an outstanding play. Max Fried at 8,700, Steven Matz at 8,200. If you want more or less a boom or bust option, Sean Manaea is 8,400, and the Yankees obviously have a lot of power in that offense. They've been hitting well, but they also strike out at one of the highest rates on the entire slate. So at only 8,400, Manaea makes sense. You can drop down a little bit farther. 7,500, Zach Thompson gets the matchup at home against the Cincinnati Reds. I'm fine if you want to take a shot there in tournaments. Jake Odorizzi at 6,700 makes a reasonable option just because of the matchup against the Texas Rangers. And then at 6,400, I think that Paolo Espinino is reasonable because of how terrible the Mets have been playing. I don't really want to go there. I probably avoid that because there's so many good pitchers on the slate. But I do think it's at least viable just because the Mets have featured one of the worst offenses in the MLB over the last 14 days. Their team WOBA is the lowest on the entire slate at 270. It's pretty embarrassing. And then their strikeout rate is slightly over 25%. So plenty of... I guess the matchup against the Mets will give Espino a little bit more upside compared to what he generally has. And it's kind of tough because you definitely don't want to go there. But if you have to, I feel like it's not necessarily the worst play. I will say for 300 more, I do prefer Jake Odorizzi. So if you can find that extra 300, I would highly recommend it. And then I guess the only other guy that I would mention, and I don't necessarily love him because he's in a tough matchup, but Eduardo Rodriguez, he can be used. It's just you're paying $9,400 for him, and I don't see a reason, honestly, to use him over Musgrove, even in like tournaments. I would just eat the chalk that should be coming with Musgrove compared to someone like Eduardo Rodriguez on this type of a slate. I think that about does it for pitcher. Even though we're going to have comments of everyone's Discord names from the giveaway, if you have any questions, specifically any pitchers, hitters, stacks, literally anything, or comments, please still leave them in the comments. I'm going to just sift through everything throughout the day, and I will always answer any questions that you guys have for me. So don't think that just because people are commenting their Discord names for the giveaway or anything that I'm going to miss your questions or anything. I won't. I'll find them, and I will answer them throughout the day. Moving on to stacks, I think there's one very clear one that sticks out to me, and that's the Tampa Bay Rays. They've been playing well. They get the plus matchup against Matt Harvey. They're now not playing in Tampa. They're playing in Baltimore's hitter-friendly stadium. I believe they have the highest implied run total on the entire slate, so The Tampa Bay Rays are my number one. I do think that there are several stacks that make elite options tonight. You can add Houston. I really like the spot that they're in. I think that the Chicago White Sox against Keegan Thompson is a solid matchup for them. Toronto Blue Jays. I think that the Los Angeles Dodgers are fine. Kyle Freeland has actually been one of the better pitchers in the MLB over the last month, which absolutely blows my mind. But realistically, you can take the Dodgers against anyone, and Freeland is not a guy that's going to scare me away. The Philadelphia Phillies, Boston Red Sox, Milwaukee Brewers, even against a lefty, you have the St. Louis Cardinals. They're all viable. I like all of those stacks tonight. If I had to break this down into my favorite at the moment, I think number one would be Tampa Bay, and that's pretty clear for me. Number two, it's tough. I don't necessarily know. I think I have a leaning towards probably the Phillies, I want to say. I think the Phillies are viable as number two. Number three, I would probably go Houston. 4, the Dodgers. And then 5, St. Louis. I think those would probably be my top 5. Again, that can change throughout the day, but sitting right now, I think that's more or less what I'm looking at. And don't get me wrong, there are several other stacking options that you can use that I did not just name there. So feel free again to comment whatever. I do want to quick reiterate this for anyone that just skips through the beginning. We are giving away a free month MLB Core Plays package on this video. You have to do 4 things that are super easy. 1, like the video. 2, subscribe to the channel. 3, join our free Discord, chatdfs.com, or check out the description. Just hit show more below and you can find a link to that. And then 4, comment your Discord username so we can get in contact with you if you win. Moving to position by position, I think if you're spending up on catcher tonight, you're kind of deciding between JT Realmuto and Will Smith. I don't necessarily have a lean one way or the other at the moment. I guess I would say 1A Realmuto, 1B Smith, but completely fine with either of the two. If you want to drop down a little bit more, Yadier Molina against a bad left-handed pitcher, I'm 100% fine with. I think that you can also punt here, like Pat Mazeika. I don't even know how to say his name, and he plays for the Mets. I think that he's viable against Espino. I think that you can play someone like Sebi Zavala if you want. Luis Torrens, assuming he's in the lineup. Reese McGuire's down at 2,500. Martin Maldonado at 2,300 is a way to get a cheap bat in the Houston offense. So essentially, if you're spending up, it's going to be Realmuto or Will Smith. If you're in the mid-tier, Yadier Molina, and then a few punt options. But obviously, we're going to have to wait and see who's in the starting lineups tonight. But that more or less outlines catcher. We're moving to first base. If you haven't seen, we have some strict first base stuff now. Max Muncy, strictly first base, no longer second base eligible. Nelson Cruz is now solely first base, no longer outfield eligible. So I think both of them are good options. Paul Goldschmidt is an elite option. The problem is he's 6,000. They bumped his price like crazy. So, are you really going to pay 6,000 for Goldschmidt when you can get someone like Nelson Cruz against Matt Harvey for 5,300? I'm not sold that's the route. I prefer Nelson Cruz, but I do think that Goldschmidt is 100% viable. Then you can get down to some of the cheaper guys. You have like Brad Miller at 3,500. I do think that that's a really good play. Rowdy Tellez at 2,700. Bobby Dahlbeck at 33 against a lefty. So there's a lot of plays that you can consider here. Other guys that I didn't name that, also make good options for the matchups that they're in are going to be Jose Abreu, Vlad Guerrero Jr. You can take a shot on someone like Pete Alonso if you want. So, I mean, the whole slate, realistically, Michael Chavez is first base, second base eligible, 3,500 against J.A. Happ. I really like that. But the whole slate, more or less, is going to have a lot of different players that can be used. I don't want to give you 8 million players on this pod, so I'm just still going with my favorites at each position, and I think it's pretty clear that there are going to be other guys that you can use. So, as always, feel free to, if I don't mention anyone, that doesn't mean they're not a good play. Even if you don't comment and ask whether I like them or anything, just know that there are other guys that you can use. Second base, if you can get to Brandon Lowe, that's going to be my number one play. Other high-priced guys that I think are solid pivots off of him are Jose Altuve and Trey Turner. Kike Hernandez at 4,300 just feels too cheap against a bad left-handed pitcher, so I'm 100% on board with that. I don't necessarily know how cheap you're going here. I think the cheapest that I'm really looking to consider is Jorge Polanco at 3,900. I think Cesar Hernandez at 35 is viable. I just prefer Polanco for 400 more, so Polanco's the guy that I would go there. And then obviously if you want to use guys like Marcus Semien, Tommy Edman, if Mookie Betts is back and in the starting lineup, Mookie Betts at 5,700. They're all viable. I just think at the top you're playing Brandon Lowe, and then if you want to drop down, Jorge Polanco's too cheap. And those are the two that kind of stick out more than everyone else. Third base has been kind of funny because I think for the last 4 days I've strictly just been deciding between Rafael Devers and Jose Ramirez. But tonight, they both are viable options that can be used. They're just not in the best matchups, so they don't make the clear-cut top plays. I think at the top, Nolan Arenado against a weak left-handed pitcher makes a lot of sense. Although similar to Goldschmidt, he's up to 5,800, so it really isn't that great of a spot because his price tag's so high, but I do really like him in this matchup, so I might be willing to pay that. I think you can go someone like Alex Bregman, Manny Machado. They both make sense. If you want to play lefty against Matt Harvey, Joey Wendell's only 4,200, which is just way too cheap. And then you have a couple of guys for the Dodgers and Justin Turner and Chris Taylor, who are both over 5,000. Both of them can be used. The other guy that just sticks out as way too cheap, I guess there are two, and they're the same price. The guy that I like more of the duo is going to be Josh Donaldson at 3,700 against left-handed pitching. It's just a bad price tag for him. And then the other one at 3,700 is Luis Urias at third base and shortstop eligible for Milwaukee. Obviously gets the plus matchup against Albers tonight. So I do think that both of them are viable. And then just one more guy that I'll add for strictly GPPs in just as a high upside option is going to be Ke'Bryan Hayes against J. Happ. I do think that some Pittsburgh bats are viable. It's just tough to really stack them as an entire team. But if they're going to go off, a guy like Happ is the guy that they're going to do it against. So I do think that it's reasonable to at least consider them. At shortstop, I think if you're getting to the top, it's tough because I'm personally deciding between Xander Bogaerts and Wander Franco. I think I lean Franco for 400 less, just because Bogaerts isn't quite as good outside of Boston, even though it is a good matchup against a lefty. So I think at the top, I'm deciding, I think I have Franco 1, Xander Bogaerts 2, and then you have a few other guys, like you can use Lindor if you want. Tim Anderson makes a lot of sense tonight. Or you can drop down to 4,600, assuming Willy Adames is in the lineup. He is an elite play. If he's out of the lineup, only 100 more, you can play Bo Bichette against Matt Manning. I think that's 100% viable. If you need to save some salary at this position, I think my favorite option would probably be... of guys that we haven't talked about, because Jorge Polanco is probably number one. Luis Urias is also great for 200 cheaper than that. But at 3,900, Didi Gregorius is in a really good spot. I like him against Widener tonight. Paul DeJong, I don't have any issues really with, but he's not really a guy that I love using. And then Dylan Moore, if you just want like a super cheap like a super cheap GPP flyer. He's expected to hit ninth in the Seattle lineup. He does come with power, and he obviously gets a good matchup against Bubic tonight. So I do think that that's viable. Outfield's going to be so tough to break down because there are so many plays. It's really difficult to get to all of them. I guess we can start at the top and work our way through. Anyone over 5,000, I think that the top option for me probably is going to be Bryce Harper. I think you can make a case for Yordan Alvarez, Mookie Betts, even Fernando Tatis Jr., but I slightly like Bryce Harper more than them. There's a few other guys that we've already talked about. I'm not going to go over them as well. If I mention them at other positions, then yes, I also like them in the outfield. At 5,000 on the dot, I do think that Aaron Judge is viable. I don't like him in cash because the matchup isn't necessarily great, but I do think that he's a really good tournament play. Outside of that, there's a lot of guys like right in the 4,000 range that can be used, right around there. I guess let's just start in the high 4Ks. I think Kyle Schwarber is 100% fine. If you want to use anyone in the outfield from Tampa Bay, I'm cool with it. Austin Meadows is 47. Randy Arozarena is 45. They're both completely viable. Odubel Herrera, Brandon Nimmo, and Lewis Robert are all 4,000 on the dot. I think that they're all great plays. If I had to rank them in order, I would probably say Robert, Nimmo, Herrera. But I don't think you're really going to go wrong with any of them. Trent Grisham, assuming he's leading off at 4,300, is a little too cheap. Eloy Jimenez at 46 is still a bit too cheap. And then we have other guys that get plus matchups that just come with really weird price tags. Corey Dickerson is hitting 5th for Toronto. He gets a great matchup against a guy that gets no strikeouts in Matt Manning. 3,100, that's way too cheap. Dylan Carlson is 3,600, that's way too cheap. There's just really just a ton of outfielders that can be used. Lorenzo Cain's down at 2,700. I don't have problems with any of these guys. Miles Straw is still 2,700. I know it's a tougher matchup against Eduardo Rodriguez, but you know, Straw at 27 is just way too cheap for leading off and what he can do with his legs. Whoever leads off for Washington is going to make a great option. If it's Robles at 2,000, you know, I have no problem with that. What is Lane Thomas at tonight? 2,200 if he's leading off, also a great option for the Nationals. So there's a ridiculous amount. We're going to have to wait on who's starting, who's hitting where before we can really narrow down our outfield pool because there's so many guys. But that is a decent amount of players that I just gave you out there for the position. So we can move on to a home run call tonight. It's tough. There's a few guys that I really want to go with, but I don't necessarily want to give you guys a bunch of home run calls. So I think for my home run call tonight, I'm going to go with a little bit of a weirder one. I'm going with Yadier Molina. 3,900. He only has 8 home runs on the year. I think this is a spot where he can show off his power. Yadier Molina to hit his 9th home run tonight. That is a bit of a bold call, in my opinion at least. Also, drop your home run calls in the comments. I absolutely love seeing those and seeing who can nail the home runs. It's a great time, especially during the slate when you're just kind of watching and who knows what's going to happen and everything. It's really fun. But once again, there is a giveaway for the MLB Core Plays package for 1 month. You'll be joining us completely for free. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, join our Discord, and comment your Discord name below. I want to thank everyone for watching. Really appreciate all of you guys that interact with us, that watch our video, literally everything. It makes it so much fun to do this kind of thing. But for now, we have a 15-game slate tonight. I hope everyone absolutely crushes it. And hopefully I will see all you guys in our free Discord as well. So good luck tonight, and we'll be back on Monday with another video.